doing this stuff. Now, Kira, I have a question for you.
Hello, everybody.
Are you queer?
I am incredibly queer, sir.
Then why on earth would you tell us that you should sit straight in your chair?
Because the way I was sitting in this office chair, which is normally very comfortable, was very painful because the arm was digging into my side.
Well, I suppose there's that.
It's
Were you doing the bisexual leg cross?
Yeah, I am known to do that once in a while.
Honestly, that should have been a sign for me from when I was 7, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, that's because biculture is not well defined. Anyway.
Are you telling me that it's very chaotic? Much like this intro?
Yes.
Welcome to the Prismatic Dragonfly, where we talk about LGBT issues and memes and terms, which is, a very good thing that people should be talking about. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a very interesting episode ahead, and thank you. Number one, thank you for joining. If you're a return customer, thank you for coming back. If you're friends, family, anybody that's been supporting us from the beginning, thank you. Tonight we're doing something different that wasn't planned, and it's my fault because I threw it on the players and the staff and everything like that last second. But if you stick around tonight, or you're watching this on YouTube, I hope that you're looking it up on YouTube specifically because of what we're doing tonight, which is we're going to go through some character creation. So we've been working at launching this live stream for a little bit, and it's been an amazing process of learning a lot of different things. So not only have we learned a lot about technology and cameras and streaming and just, everything in there, we've learned a lot about each other and all the work that it takes to run a game on this level. And something that we've noticed is mistakes that were made, specifically on my part. So one thing that I did is I had all the players make their characters in as close to absolute secrecy as possible. And while that does work sometimes, it didn't work this time, and not for this very creative group that likes those kind of connections. And it didn't even work really well for me as a GM either, because it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to pluck and pull at people's character backstory strings. So, a good friend of mine, and I'm going to give him a shout out, thank you, Brandon, the original creator of a world called Arlia that he has graciously let me use as part of my world, recommended that we try the web character creation method. And this is a method I've used before and I've liked it, I just haven't used it in a long time. And we'll probably put some links in the bio or some of our other socials and stuff to a great video on TikTok by Scene4, who recently made this video, and it's a really quick 50-second description of what the web method is. So tonight we're going to go through the web method and kind of reflesh out the characters everybody's playing, specifically their relationships to each other and NPCs and their backstories, and we'll see how much we get through tonight. We probably can get most of the web done tonight, and then hopefully next Sunday we'll see it in action and give the campaign another but really good kickoff in a really good spot. So if you stick around, you're going to get to see a lot of character creation, a lot of talking, creativity, brainstorming, and you get to see the web method in process. So it's going to be a much more casual stream with you just kind of here definitely as a guest this time instead of us really playing to the audience. So if you want to talk to us in Twitch chat, give us ideas, ask questions, please do, but we do hope you stick around.
Are you telling me I cannot play to the audience?
I mean, you can play to the lovely audience if you would like, but
they're all my delightful friends, and I want to play with them.
I mean, that's fine. You can do that.
Why are you laughing? I want to play with my friends. They're nice friends. And I want
Put your problematic character quality into the chat, and Ryan will definitely put it into the character.
Don't do that.
No, I'd love that. Please don't
Please
do that.
because I am a problem.
And one thing that we can definitely put afterwards, maybe on our social medias, definitely in the link in the YouTube description, or I'm sure our tech wizards off screen can implement it into the overlay or something like that, is we'll show you what the web looks like when we're done at the end of the night. Because right now, some of us have laptops, some of us has phones, and we're pulling up just a basic Google slide document so we have something to tinker in. And we're going to draw a literal web of characters and stuff like that. So you're not going to see it tonight. Most likely because it's kind of last minute. I don't think we can get it on camera, but we will definitely put it in the stream later and on socials and stuff, so you can see it all. But if everybody else is in the web document right now, go ahead and just grab a text tool, work on the front page, and pop in your character name, and we can start kind of going around the table / there's a couple different ways to do this. So The way that I did it, the 2 times that I was a character when a DM did the web method, we went around the table one at a time, and everybody like gave a brief rundown of their character, their ideas, their values. They talked about their connections to NPCs in their past, and then it went around the table. And then once everybody was introduced as a PC with people in their background, then the connections phase kicked off, and you had to figure out your connections to people on your right and your left, and then your connections to somebody's to NPCs. So, and it would probably help if I said that at the beginning of the video, because the web method is you have each player create a character collaboratively at the table, and a lot of them are going to use kind of the character they're playing right now. You don't have to give away all the secrets to anybody, except probably me. But once everybody's characters are laid out, you have to develop some kind of a connection with the player's character on your right and on your left. It doesn't have to be lover, it doesn't have to be best friend, it could be casual acquaintance, but you gotta have something there. And then you make 2 NPCs from your backstory and kind of talk about it at the table to some extent. Once again, don't gotta share all the secrets with you, your character, and that character in your backstory. And then once everybody has them and they're all laid out on the web, then people have to crisscross. So you have to have a distinct connection with 2 NPCs that have been created, preferably not from the people on your right and your left, but however you want to do it. So do we want to do this around the table style then, or any suggestions? Because you can do it lots of different ways, so that's only the way that I've done it. So we could also just have...
What way would no mommy want it?
Say what?
What way would no mommy want it?
No,
Yeah.
no, mommy.
No mommy.
Oh no, she's going to have to come back at some point, isn't she?
I mean, we
Definitely.
might get things to go a little more smoothly if she's introduced as an NPC here.
I mean, you could. Somebody needs to have Mervin as an NPC, because I'm still having her pop back into
Sorry,
reality
who?
at some point.
Yeah, who?
You'll
Yeah,
know one day. So yeah, I like what you guys are doing in the doc. Drop your character name, put the pronouns in there, please, because it just helps reinforce it for everybody, and it is a lot to remember with everything flying around, so we want to do our best we can with pronouns. So drop everything in there, and yeah, let's try and go around the table then.
I guess I'll go in the top right.
So, Ryan, do you want to start?
Oh, yes, I will be playing the delightful wizard known as Rowan Helianthe. She goes by, or they go by they, she pronouns.
Okay.
Their kind of backstory is they grew up in a pretty remote village in the oh gosh, what is the name of this
Well, and see, that's
The
another
anomalous
great thing too.
conglomerate?
Yep,
Yes.
that's the one. Thank
She
you.
knows that one.
I'm like, names are hard.
Names are very hard, and actually that is something that we have the ability to do with our awesome overlay, is we can put the map up, which Reva might be doing if she's hearing me right now. And that's a cool thing too, is we can talk more about locations and history of the world and stuff too when we're getting set up, and everybody will hear these terms and places ad nauseum during it, so it'll help drive them home for everybody. So Rowan, you already have a decent background fleshed out for this character, or a starter background fleshed out for this character.
Yep.
Once again, you don't got to reveal, secrets and all those things to everybody. But yeah, that was like a really brief intro. Anything else that you want to explain about her, like motivations? Do you want to workshop anything, or do you feel like Rowan's pretty like set as they are? Like, what do you think?
I feel decent, but like I would like to let these fine folks, chip in a little bit.
Okay.
Give her a little panache, a little pizzazz.
Okay, so then let's try this, and this will be a fun way to figure out what's going to work best for us. So we're going to say, since Ryan is the player of interest right now, all of us get to focus our attention on Ryan,
Yes, look at me.
and we are thinking
back at you.
primarily about the character Ryan is creating. I have the world map up here as well, so just give us another rundown of Rowan. Is everything you can think of that you want to share?
Yeah, let me start. Let me begin at the beginning, which is generally a good place to begin.
It is, yes.
So Rowan was born to a couple of parents who were just kind of like farmers in like a 50-person village way out in the middle of the anomalous conglomerate. And one day she was like playing around, kind of late at night, like ran out into the fields because she saw something like sparkly there, and it turns out it was it was some sort of aberration, something from the far realms that had somehow made its way to her little garden patch. She picked it up and it was a little shard of crystal that when you look at it you can't quite see it. Like it almost like it's almost like you're looking at a hole in reality. And from there, out comes a voice. In my head, it's a beholder whose name I have not come up with yet. But just some sort of terrifying creature from the far realm. And after that, she is touched, shall we say, by this aberrant mind. And suddenly she's like, oh no, I can do magic. No, not touched in a bad way. Like
She's the one snort giggling over there?
you also chortled.
And really, as a
chortled,
DM,
madam.
you're supposed to set the tone. How
You
dare you?
chortled.
Oh, I'm supposed to say, how dare you all.
Yes,
Continue.
excuse me. This is supposed to be peak serious time. There can be no jokes. How dare you? You get it.
What
You
if my
understand.
existence is a joke?
All of our existence is a joke, which is why I'm choosing to take it seriously to, spite God.
Okay, I'm bored.
Please continue.
And so, so at this point, she has this magic, doesn't quite know how to deal with it, and is like, but I need to know more. I must know more. Her parents are none too thrilled with this, and nor is most of the village. So, at the ripe young age of 12, she runs off into the woods to the, local magic guy who is just some crazy gnome. Just a delightfully, deeply insane gnome wizard who follows the most ancient tradition of wizardry, hedge wizardry. So through studying with this delightful gentleman whose name I also have not produced, she learns how to speak Halfling and Primordial, because this gnome mostly speaks in Primordial. There's a lot of grunting between them, grunting and eye contact. It's a really primal language.
Awkward dinners.
It's mostly vibes. It's like 60% vibes. There's a whole tone thing, and it's like, you ever try to talk to an Aquan? Oh my god, they're just so
Right?
they just have weird vibes. But anyway, so and in that, Aquan or Primordials mostly revolves around creatures who are fundamentally made of elements and are like, gender is what now? So for most of her teenage years, what is gender? And so just uses they them pronouns mostly because it's like, this feels right. Why are you using she? This feels strange, but okay. So through her years of tutelage, she learned a pretty decent chunk of magic. And then one day, a couple months ago, her teacher was just like, well, I can't teach you anymore. Go. And then he ran away into the woods. Because again, he is an insane gnome. And so with that, she set out on her quest to fill her spell book with spells and to learn more about magic.
As an important note, something that I'm testing with Ryan as a mechanic that will be on the stream and is important to the character creation conversation somewhat, is because of Rowan's backstory, which only a sliver really has been revealed right now, but due to the way that she came to access magic, Rowan has a unique trait, and this is something that I've messed with before in my world, and I've kind of collaborated with Ryan on developing this a bit further as a gameplay mechanic where Rowan has the ability, when Rowan learns a spell, there's a brief moment where they see, the true nature of the spell, what it looks like in the weave, what it reads in arcane script, and they have a brief moment when they learn it to tweak it one time and permanently change what the spell does. So you could do something like the example I'm going to use, and please correct me if I get it wrong, is that, and Ryan's going to have these down for me as a GM, and it's something that I'm really excited to try and see how it works. So the spell Campfire doesn't let you...
It's got to be on a flat.
It's got to be on a flat surface. It doesn't catch things, or it does catch. It can catch
catches things on fire.
It catches things on fire, and Ryan was like, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that it's on flat surface and some other things. So we came up with this idea where Rowan has this quick opportunity to be like, I'm learning this spell. I can see the source code of it, and I can tweak it. With the downside of that, she can only do it once, kind of thing, and some other stuff. But she could take the spell Campfire and be like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice the fact that it can cause damage and do other stuff, but I can now place it on any surface. So it doesn't really become a physical campfire, but it's, a campfire that you can stick on the ceiling kind of thing, and it does shed light and stuff like that. So that is a feature of Rowan that will be explained throughout the campaign, and, there is a lot of backstory. That's only the sliver so far. So that's Rowan. What does everybody think? Feedback, workshop? Because you said you wanted to hear, if people had thoughts. Okay. Because, kind of the thing that I'm going to be asking everybody is, what does the character's journey look like to you in your head? Is picture, say we get to do this for a year or two and, have a long-term campaign, and we eventually sit down that one episode at the end, and we're like, it's the last episode of campaign 1, or, this campaign or whatever, let's celebrate it and talk about it and stuff like that. You need to picture, what are you getting out of that as a player? What is Rowan going to get out of that as a character? And what kind of an arc do you want to see that character have from point A to B? Even though you might not know what's going to happen along the way, you can still have a goal in mind.
I mean, I think clearly her goal is to understand more about where her magic comes from, and also their kind of place in the world.
Okay.
Because they spent most of their adolescence, I think one of it's a journey of, it's like a coming of age tale in a lot of ways, where it's spent most of their youth deeply secluded, and is just now experiencing the wider world, and oh, there's more to life than this weird farm that I lived on, and this weird gnome in the woods, and also what are forks?
Okay.
So part of it is, I think, just her journey is one of kind of growing up and learning more about the world as it is, right? And also learning more about magic. How do I do things? I think also it'd be really cool to fight some wizards. Some wizard duels just feels right.
Okay.
So maybe before she's done, she does have to win a wizard tournament or something.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on Rowan?
I'm just confused about where not confused, but curious about how the beholder voice comes into this, because you were describing this and I was like, warlock? And then it was like, but wizard. So I'm just that's.
So
I want to dig into that.
Okay, so let me give you this class breakdown. Is I have 1 level in Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, 2 levels in Wizard, because meta magic don't mess around.
Okay.
And also, I like being able to telepathically speak to people. Turns out that's very useful.
Makes sense. I missed the sorcerer part.
Yep.
But okay, that's very cool. I think they sound like a cool character.
Do they have a relationship with the Beholder?
I think they do, and I think it's probably kind of similar to a Warlock patron, with the kind of exception. I don't think you hear it. I don't think they hear the voice constantly. I think it is that moment where they're looking at the spell, they're writing it down, and that's where they start hearing these thoughts of but what if you did this? It's it's less of a let me peel back the it is this let me peel back the fabric of reality, but I don't know that they're able to do that inherently, so much as it is they're carrying around this like crystal that's tied to a beholder somewhere, and they're just like, hey, but like, have you considered? And I think maybe part of her journey is like taking those kind of like tips and inspiration and being like, oh, actually magic is a very malleable thing, but like most wizards are like, no, these are the spells that you learn, and they go this way, and you cast them with these runes. And she's like, but what if no? And I think there's a lot of conflict to be had with her having following this very old hedge wizard style of spell casting, where it's like there wasn't a standard fireball spell. It was just a guy in the woods cooked it up and started lighting things on fire.
Well, and I mean, if you look at the history of Akora, too, it was a planet born without magic. And then once the Xiphoid hit and magic was there, people had to figure stuff out. So, of course, there were a lot of, cities and organizations and stuff that quickly tried to form an academic structure or sort of research one. But there were just people trying to make things blow up and figure it out. So,
right.
I mean, it does work with the history of the world that, yeah, there was totally people that just threw whatever they could at the wall and then they figured out how to teleport.
Yeah.
Sometimes with, most of the time with lots of death involved, but, it
And
fits.
I would imagine, based on what we said, after Edwin came to power, it was like, I will grant you access to magic. I imagine that would have acted as a large standardizing force, right? Where it's like, yes, I will grant you access to magic in this very specific way. And so that's the standard spell book, as it were.
I mean, I actually don't think that ever came up in the campaign with Edwin, which all this will be recapped eventually with the next episode.
And I'm not saying that was like an overarching, somebody made a decision about that.
No.
So
it's
much
just
as
what you point out makes total sense and probably would have happened because, the way the magical licenses worked is you could only cast X amount of spell slots a day, and they totally wouldn't have worked for a hedge wizard because if somebody was trying to do like non-standard casting or something, it really would have messed with the system that he had put in place and it would have blocked it. So that makes sense. That's right. A cool like workshopping of it.
Yeah.
So.
And so, and I think that also could lends itself to an interesting, or rather, I guess I would kind of want to explore what it's like to be a wizard in this world. This like post magical cataclysm.
Yeah.
Like I think there would be a lot of conflict with all these wizards who like had to follow these very strict rules and be just so, and now they can do whatever. Oh no. Have you met wizards? They're slightly insane.
Yeah.
You give them that much structure, it's going to break them.
I mean, I will say that, different parts of the world will react differently to, magic, and they all have their own ways of practicing it. But, like, I will say overall as a theme, yes. I think the only thing that I might offer to you as feedback from my part is when we originally talked about this, you talked about coming from the anomalous conglomerate, and there's a giant forest in one of the cities, outside one of the cities, called the elemental city of Powood, and that would make sense. But the anomalous conglomerate wasn't around, and I mean the landmass was, but they didn't really get affected by Edwin. But down where your previous character was from, like Treetop, the Kingdom of Nevok, the Jakiki Diarchy, like around there, that was affected. So I feel like if that's going to play into this, you're going to want your character to come from somewhere that actually was affected by Edwin, possibly.
Okay.
Either on the border of it, so you like weren't personally affected, but Rowan heard all about it, or Rowan was personally affected.
Well, I think let me repost to your post, which is to say, perhaps she was. I'm not tied to where she was born.
Yeah.
Tiny farming village can be anywhere.
Point.
That's its name. I don't have a good name for it.
I have that part, but yeah.
Great.
Go ahead.
So I think, but the way that she has accessed magic might have just been like a backdoor through this like policy of Edwin's, and it's like nobody could have accounted for that. Like you wouldn't have planned for beholders to be like, hey, you do magic now.
Okay.
Like, and I don't know why this beholder did that. I don't know.
So do you have a copy of the map accessible? Are you looking at one?
There's one.
Perfect.
So if you look down, middle of the map, you'll see a giant city called Cyford.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
I see it.
so above Cyford, on those two islands, you got Charik and Freeam. And they're both small villages, and there's forests on that island. And that the middle of that island, literally half of it was hit by Edwin freezing the ley lines, and the other half wasn't. So somewhere on that island, probably closer to Freeam, is where she could be from. And she would have been in a weird place that got hit and did not get hit by it, if you want. My other suggestion would be right down by Cyford is Zyri, and there's a forest down from Zyri, and that would be firmly, completely affected by Edwin, but that's another choice for you.
Well, let me ask you: how comfortable are you with her? I guess it would be in the late stages of Edwin's kind of run of her just like having been granted this loophole.
I am fine with her being granted the loophole as long as she didn't get to do much with it in a world impacting way. Because like if she was casting spells in the forest with her mentor or doing things, sure, like that's something we can massage and play with, but she wouldn't have been running around a major city or she would have got killed.
No, she was absolutely out in the woods, like eating bugs and like, how do I cast cantrips?
Yep, perfect. And like, yeah, so we can massage that, we can play with that.
Perfect.
So I think that's fine.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, I think I will go with down by, sorry, what is it? Zyri?
Zyri.
Great.
So just east of Zyri is that forest, and it could be easily from there. So we'll put that down. And please take these notes with your backstory, especially if we're talking locations and stuff that isn't in the web doc, because the web is just our relationships right now.
Yeah,
okay, so that's a good overview of Rowan. Any other comments for Ryan? Feedback?
No, I'm just very interested to see how things work out with them.
Yeah. Also, as we're going around, just kind of mull over what's your role going to be in the party, and what is your reason to stay with the party, because you need to stay with the party, or you want to be able to be around the party, kind of thing. But I think Rowan, definitely will want to be exposed to the world and stuff like that.
I've got thoughts for that.
Cool. So as we go around and we focus on each player, after we pass, you start dreaming up these NPCs, get the names into the doc, and we'll go back around and hit the NPCs once we go around. Cool. Joe.
All right. Gaspar Derici, a human bard. They grew up, born outside of the capital of Kor, but spent a lot of their more mature teen years there. Didn't really have too many ties, but eventually ended up finding that their calling was acting, and really ended up becoming really familiar with different taverns and troops that they wanted to get involved with, where they kind of got taken under the wing by some people. And more so, it's not a good living. They ended up finding themselves borderline urchin status, where they, through some of these teachings and these other more capable and more grizzled acting veterans, they learned that a role is more than just words on a paper, and it can be utilized as a tool in the real world. So they kind of found a way to possibly impersonate someone who's real, and maybe use their status as a tool to get a better chamber in the tavern, or maybe get a slight discount at a shop. Otherwise, my father's a powerful man. They might not be too happy with you. So really just greasing the wheels wherever they could, and understanding the limitations, the strict limitations of, if you do this too much, people will realize it's you and come after you and kill you. So they draw a fine line with how often they do it, but it also forces them to move vast distances across the world, to basically just make sure that they still have that avenue available to them. They do have ties, but not too many of them. Most recently, they've fallen in with a troupe known as Iradrama from Iradran. Just a bunch of happy-go-lucky people that are really doing more the equivalent of Shakespeare, essentially. Basically, really passionate, but not too comfortable with getting out of their comfort zone. So Gaspard kind of really sees that as a way to grow themselves and thrive. But they recently lost, via abandonment, someone known as Giovanni de Castel, who
definitely should go in the dock.
yes,
As
will
one of
definitely
your-
go on the dock. Gaspard has essentially agreed to track this person down for them, basically based on their friendship and such, and has been most recently loosely investigating any signs for this person.
So, and your character hasn't changed. You pretty much, like, you came up with this version of Gaspard. Gaspard has worked. You haven't really changed them too much. And I know a lot about Gaspard's story. So, does anybody have any feedback, questions, or anything for Gaspard? Because you've also seen Gaspard played for a while, and we see how, like, Gaspard was introduced and, like, the role they kind of took on and stuff like that. And it's going to be a bit different now, but just any thoughts that you might have.
I truly hope we can keep the utterly ridiculous Gaspard the intern dynamic.
I don't think I have a choice. I mean, I didn't create that to begin with.
Well, yeah, I mean, but while we're talking about that, is that at all enjoyable for you, Joe, as a player? Because
Yes,
we don't want you to be forced into this role where this character, where you want to play them a certain way, is seen as a joke character.
Early on, it's good because I think the thing about Gaspard is while they are comfortable getting into a role, and they are they them, while they are comfortable getting into different roles and can step into the shoes of a lot of different types of beings, there's a certain rigidity to their normal personality that they don't really have an easy time stepping out of. So I think them being kind of a joke character is kind of the fault of Gaspard and how Gaspard has lived for the past few years.
Okay. And I definitely, that's kind of what I felt with the original Urchin vibe. I just wanted to do a reality check and be like,
No, absolutely, yeah.
okay, cool. All right. Well, then you already have one of your NPCs that you
Yes.
can draw a line to and put them in there, which will be fodder. So, okay.
Did
Cool.
you just say that'll be fire?
Fodder.
Oh, fodder.
Fodder.
Very upset for a moment.
No. I am too old to speak in such terms.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm aware of my place. Fail.
Just wait for her to drop a "this is gonna be super lit" fam or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting
Dab on them.
for. Dab.
Like I said earlier
Right?
today.
That's how we're supposed to communicate to the youth, right, Grandma?
Yes, we are supposed to dab to them, sweetheart. As I said earlier today, there's too much gray in this side shave. Fail.
Yes, so I'm Vale. For anybody who hasn't watched the stream before, I use they, them pronouns. My character is named Sani Loma, and she is a priestess from a small fishing village in a very remote part of the world, and an island that would be roughly in the Antarctic Circle on Earth if you mapped everything out. She is being raised to replace her father, who is the current head of their village's faith, and very recently received a divine vision that it was time for her to undertake a pilgrimage. And on this pilgrimage, she was going to go out into the wider world, and she had an extremely metaphorical dream about this strange tower and this purple magic, and she doesn't fully grasp it yet, but she knows that if she goes out there and wanders around for a while and listens to her gods and the signs, she'll eventually figure out what she's supposed to do, and then she can return home. The thing is that while she's a priestess, she's not a cleric. She is a Fathomless Pact warlock. Her pact has made her slowly start changing from originally being born human to taking on more and more aquatic characteristics. She has very shark-like skin, solid black eyes, gills down both sides of her neck. And she's been traveling around the world just trying to understand things and find what her purpose is, with her only companion so far being a... That's actually didn't get a chance to come up last session, but she has found a familiar, which is a small magical octopus that she is keeping in a bottle.
I love them. I love them.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that, Ryan.
It's so beautiful. I need to spend more time with this octopus. Rowan does also have a familiar. It's a tiny floating beholder named Leopold, who is yellow, and his eye stalks go around his face like a mane. It's beautiful. I just want to see Leopold and this octopus play.
And yeah, because we're talking about like kind of thematic concepts of the characters too.
Yeah.
Sonny's big one is kind of discovery, and discovery from a perspective that's not like colonial. I'm from the big city. I'm going to tell you what to do. Like she comes from a very small, remote place, and she just wants to see things for what they are and kind of approach them from her perspective instead of immediately having like that judgment of that looks weird. It must be evil, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of pairing that with her power is very strange to people that aren't from her village and can be very easily misunderstood. And there's even really a question of like, is this relationship her people have with their gods, like, is it really like a good thing for them? And like, is what she's out doing in the world ultimately going to be something that's like really good for like her and everyone else in it? Or maybe like her gods aren't necessarily malicious, but maybe they don't fully understand like what people actually need, and maybe this is something that just follows their instructions blindly. There could be a problem. And that leads into the final one, which is she is the only child of the person who runs the village and their temple. So she kind of has to learn like, okay, what does it actually mean to be somebody who has to make these decisions? And so someday I'm going to have to replace my dad.
So a lot of different things, and a lot of different ways it could end up in the end. So, okay. So what? What did I do this time?
Nothing.
Okay.
You are just such a delight.
So vibrant.
I feel like there's chat going on in the Discord, our private Discord that I don't know about or something.
There is not. I genuinely just think you are
thank
vibrant
you.
and delightful.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
keep,
how dare you judge my motives?
I keep saying one of the things that you do when you're on stream, especially, is if I don't do it enough myself, is I notice that my grammar falls apart sometimes, and I think I used the same word twice before I looked at you and you were smiling, and that's why I was like,
Oh yeah, I didn't notice.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you. The English language is at least 4 languages, if not maybe 16, all wearing a trench coat.
Yes.
And grammar is completely made up and nonsense. I understand you. You're fine.
Okay. Well, thank you for the compliment. So Sonny hasn't changed that much either. In fact, Sonny hasn't changed at all. But we, once again, have had a chance to see Sonny play and stuff. Is there any feedback for Vale, or is there anything else that we want to talk about with Sonny specifically?
No, I like Sonny. I think Sonny works really well in kind of the chaos that is the rest of the group.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, one of the things that I have enjoyed with Sonny is that they are. Sorry, is it?
Yeah, Sonny's a she.
Okay. Sorry. I'm having a minute where I'm just like, what are pronouns? Oh God.
That is something, by the way, and I don't mean to stress the back of the house out because I love you and this isn't me asking you to do anything and you're already being too amazing. But that is something that where we were talking about maybe in the future getting on the stream is like we'll have little title cards under everybody with pronouns like for themselves and characters or it's fine.
No,
Nobody's rushing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you already have it or something?
Yeah.
No, I have your doc.
Oh, you have the doc and
Yeah.
see, Riva is amazing, Joe is amazing, back at the house running Mythical Family and all our tech. Well, okay, you still get a shout out, but I mean,
But
thank you, Riva.
either way.
Thank you. Okay.
But either way, as we pointed out, grammar is hard.
Grammar is hard.
It is hard.
Yes.
But she does so well playing the straight man because we're all kind of lunatics, and it ties into that Sonny just coming in like, I'm just gonna take this as it is. What? What are you doing?
Yeah,
Please explain.
With the little bit of test playing we've done so far, one of my favorite bits with Sonny is that she ends up being like the one who's kind of grounded, but the ground she's on is off kilter compared to like where they actually are.
And this is
Like,
what
I'm just
I
gonna
love.
casually do blood magic right here.
And like everyone else is like, yes, this does make sense. This feels right.
In this friendlies, of course.
Yeah.
The sea witch does blood magic right here. It's cool.
Makes sense.
I mean, I totally just saw the solid black Always Sunny title card, and it just has the white text, and the Sea Witch does blood magic. the title on there.
I think perhaps one thing that might be interesting is that if your gods are not, what their plans are not necessarily malicious, nor are they necessarily beneficial.
Yeah.
But, like, they're gonna cause problems for someone.
Yeah, like, the intent is really that they're weird, but not expressly, like, benevolent or malicious. It's just this, her village has developed this relationship with them.
And there is a lot of, just like I worked with everybody, I worked with Vale extensively on the lore, and these gods will show up in a certain way, and like people do know of them by different names and by different events and stuff like that. Now, that will be a very key thing when it pops up in the story. So, I know it's not exactly what Ryan was just talking about, Vale, but you know, we have talked about before. Like the Sonny doing the blood magic at the table was great, and like you enjoyed that, and that was like you said, like that was a playing a straight woman in a specific way. But you've also said that like you don't want Sonny to be like the group mom kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like I don't want her to end up being like den mother, but I do like this idea of like she's the one who's less zany, but her idea of grounded is not quite right.
Okay, just to put it out there, that's what you quantify or see with the character. Okay, cool. Sarah, do you want us to skip you and do Jillian's and then have yours be last, just because you're in flux right now, or do you want to talk about it?
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
I guess I'll just talk about it.
Okay, then let's talk about it. So what are you thinking right now for your character?
So I'm still leaning towards keeping Half Pint. Half Pint is a half-orc who was raised by gnomes from the anomalous conglomerate, specifically in the
Iriel?
Iriel, thank you. The city whose name I can never remember. Her family is basically known for enchanted weapons and enchanted armor, and she spent most of her childhood kind of secluded, tucked away by her mother, because in gnomish culture you don't fully mature until you're 40, so she wasn't allowed to leave home until she was 40. Her mother's kind of a helicopter parent. Her dad has spent a lot of his time trying to show her how things work and how to make things better. And generally speaking, she can be a bit of a space case. But that doesn't mean that she's not necessarily caring about the situation that's going on around her. She's just very bad at engaging with it. Just because she doesn't particularly understand social cues. In terms of like people that she is very close to, like her mother is her #1 role model. She's very big on that. Like she even dyes her hair to match the same color as her mother's, even though clearly a gnome and an orc are probably not going to have the same hair color. She cuts her hair in a way that like makes sure that it's flattering and like her mother's point of view, so that her scars are hidden. She was basically left on her parents' porch as a baby, and since they had been trying to conceive and just couldn't have children, they ended up taking her in and adopting her. So generally speaking, she's well loved and taken care of, but she has literally no idea how the world works, and spends a lot of time trying to figure that out and trying to interact with people on like a human level. Yeah.
Okay. So, but Half Pint has gone through a couple iterations / has been tweaked a whole bunch, just because you haven't been happy with a lot of it. And it just hasn't, some of it hasn't played the way that you thought it would.
Right.
And then you've just discovered a lot about like, oh, I had this idea, I thought it would work really well. Ooh, actually, I don't like how this is playing or how this is showing up, kind of thing.
Yeah. So just the way that I originally envisioned Half Pint was kind of like a loner. She didn't really understand social cues. She wasn't really fond of taking orders from others and would just generally do what she thought was right. What I have found is that devolves the party into chaos. And so I've tried to rein that in. And so now I think it's more that she does care very much what other people think. She just doesn't necessarily understand how that plays into the bigger picture or how it's supposed to operate logically, 'cause she's very logical. But that's kind of the iteration where I am now. Like, she cares about other people, she just doesn't know how to engage.
Yeah. And like maybe I'm just grabbing out of like random things with my brain right now. Like having Rowan and Half Pint would be an interesting, in a good way, combination, because Rowan, boiled down to like a TV tropes, is going to be the character that has no reference for society because they've never been with anybody that acts normal, has manners, or etc. Half Pint has been raised in like a very rich, well-to-do family, understands a lot of like how people interact and how things are done, even if they've never gone outside of Ariel. You know, they grew up in a big city. So beyond just that, you know, when Half Pint goes outside of that city, Half Pint's going to be oblivious and discovering things in a different way than Rowan is. And they're going to be like the same, but vastly different.
Right. I see us as kind of being foils to each other in terms of like Rowan is very kind of wild from what I understand, and Half Pint has been taught to be very demure. She has been taught to be very quiet and to not really express her opinions unless they might yield some sort of profit for the family. And so generally speaking, I see her being more like, this is what proper behavior is, and then getting very confused when she does not see that proper behavior.
Okay.
And I think I know we have touched on this at one point. You were playing Half Pint as you know, kind of neurodivergent. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I think so. So I originally started with the idea that Half Pint was kind of neurodivergent, similar to her father, and I was envisioning kind of like ADHD almost. And then that devolved into chaos. So I'm going to rein that in, but I do still envision her as being kind of spacey and more focused on what she wants to get out of things than than what is currently necessarily happening around her.
I'm happy because I like Half Pint. I definitely get the chaos, but I also really do like the logical aspect of like Half Pint thought something was right, no questions, no worry about like how it appears in that moment. It's like, I'm just gonna do that thing. Or like get the rope, you know, like to help out. Like it's I think it works. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Please dump your character pronouns in Discord when you have a second, just for the staff, so we can Riva can get everything up for us on the overlay. One moment.
Typing is hard.
Listen, we've already discussed this. Grammar is in fact our bane, and pronouns are a fundamental aspect of English grammar.
But no, I feel like it'd just be a really good dynamic overall. So is there anything that you're still wanting to workshop though? Because I know that you've been through like 7 like different things just today because you've been putting in a lot of thought about it and like what you want.
Yeah, so I see her because I know that Vale does not want to take on that kind of like maternal like group leader kind of aspect. I see Half Pint not necessarily becoming group leader, but becoming more of like somebody who listens, doesn't understand, but definitely like listens and tries to like take everybody's opinions into account.
Okay. Cool.
Tries.
Yeah.
Tries.
So you feel confident, somewhat good right now with what you've workshopped then, like today and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I particularly enjoy her backstory. Like I like having all these characters that are tied to her, and I think it works well.
For sure. I mean, I'll say as a DM, I loved the chance I got to play him, and like even though like we were probably just going to leave her family for the current part of the campaign, there's so much of it I wanted to explore, and I really do enjoy it a lot. And I mean, I enjoyed the party trying to figure out what the hell's going on with her mom, what's the dynamic here, and there's a lot to be revealed and stuff. So if you want to keep that, I'm really happy, and I think that'll be really fun. So
yeah, I really like most of the dynamic in her background. I don't really have a problem with that. I think it was mostly just party engagement that I was having trouble with.
Okay, cool. Jillian?
I'm Jillian. I am playing Cassiana Anastasia. Goes by she, her. Also just goes by Cass, because that's a mouthful and she blames her parents.
Fair.
Yeah. She is a high elf paladin. It's changed. I have to remember this. Oath of the Ancients is what she's come up with. So she grew up in Treetop, in Aspen Top Village. And she was like prepared to live her best druid life as a very respectable member of the Canopy clan. So she was learning to care for animals and, how society was running, and was just really happy, had like her best friend there. Everything was great. And then, right about the time that, Edwin decided to mess everything up with magic, she experienced a very traumatic loss in her life that this poorly influenced. And so she kind of had a break and was like, oh dear, what is death? And took off to eventually deep into the crater that is the Zyphoid's Fall. So she spent some time with the druids there, the Aether clan.
Aether clan?
Yep. Vibed with the Zyphoid, and once magic came back, took her oath to protect life and all that is good and happy in it. Not really feeling like she quite wants to go back to her village. She was like, I should go out into the world to preserve life and happiness and all that. And so she's been traveling around. First stop would have been visiting like kind of a relative that she knew about but didn't have a lot of connection because complicated family history, which was her aunt, in just like a very small town in the kingdom of Nevok. So I'm going to keep at least Kaylin's mom as an NPC. If Kaylin does or does not exist, I don't know.
Oh no, Kaylin still exists.
Cool. Keep
For now.
For
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Didn't look too promising last time.
No.
Procure cheap magical goods.
Yep. So she's just been traveling about and, trying to do like the full Dionysus thing where she's just like, everything's great, we're celebrating life and living life to the fullest.
Okay.
Because what is trauma processing?
That's what Dungeons and Dragons is for. Trauma processing.
What is an adventuring party if not a bunch of people who really need to afford therapy?
Yes. Well,
Why
just
do you-
some people don't decide to go on adventures.
Why do you think we're delving these dungeons for gold?
To pay for therapists. So with Cass then, because Cass has been reworked, I'd say dramatically at this point. Do you feel that the reason for her being out in the world and staying away from home and stuff, is that compelling enough for you and the character right now?
Yeah, because I'm approaching this less as like she's running away from home and more like she doesn't really, there is a little bit of her that like doesn't want to go back, but she doesn't have the same kind of like negativity. And what I want to approach her exploration of the world is less from like, oh god, this is new, I don't know what's going on, and more like, I've heard about all this, I want to go explore it and see it and delve into it. But I think what's going to be really compelling is the fact that she is really struggling with the concept of death, and like, as soon as we get into dangerous situations, it's going to be an issue for her.
Oh, like where we ended last session.
Yes! I was ready.
She's ready to jump in.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you want to like workshop, or do you feel pretty confident or just, settled with this concept right now?
I'm feeling pretty good about Cass unless people have questions, feedback, any of that.
Yep. Sounds pretty good.
Cass has always been fun.
Okay. Cool. Well, then we have all the characters introduced and the base level of our web built. And since Riva's so amazing, you can see a lot of this happening on the screen right now as people are starting to drop in their NPCs. So, based on the time right now, when we're recording this, I think we're about to hit break time anyway. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to break here in just a minute. We'll be back in like 10, 15 minutes after that. And then we're going to go around the table and just workshop NPCs. And I think we're just going to kind of do a free-for-all, and people can, we can talk around the table, because not only do we need to do NPCs, but first we have to figure out people's connections to each other. So the way that we're going to do this is people's, okay. is people's, and we might be able even to have time to do that, connections to each other. So the web method specifically is designed for the person on your left and your right because it introduces randomness to it. But because we've already made characters once and people did have some relationships to each other in the past, I think it's, flexible because like Jillian had a connection specifically to Ryan's character and stuff like that. And if you want to do that again, sure, that's fine, but it might be harder now.
Yeah, I think significantly
Unless you like
harder.
that challenge.
I do enjoy this challenge. I need to know how this like ludicrous hedge witch is now friends with a paladin.
See, so I was like vibing hard with your gnome mentor, and I feel like the DM is cool with this. I feel like hedge wizard gnome knew the aether druids and like that like whole, because the Scythoid is the source of magic.
Yes.
They probably also take a really like magic is in flux and is a living, breathing thing, as is this gnome's thing. So like maybe he like, although Treetop is very like cut off and isolated in some ways, there is still some in and out, and I feel like this gnome has gone in and out, and they were like, you can go, like, if you need a contact out in the world, go meet Sinric, as this gnome has now been named. And so she met Sinric, and that's how she met Rowan.
I do like this. I have a problem and suggestion.
Okay.
Every time I read this gnome's last name,
Okay.
I do accidentally replace Dimple with a less than family friendly term. No. I have a suggestion to fix this though, and I think it is perhaps very interesting.
Okay.
And you've done nothing wrong. This is just my brain and the trash-filled alley in which it lives. But I think it may be very interesting if Sinric is perhaps a distant uncle to the Blue Flame family, who, at one point just ran off into the woods.
The black sheep that nobody talks about anymore.
Yeah, they're like, we don't talk about Uncle Sinric.
Yeah, I can see that working really well, especially since Halfpine's mother's father, so Halfpine's grandfather, is very big on how things appear, since he used to be one of the aristocracy. So I could see him very easily being like, no, get out of here. We're done.
I like the thought that that's what happened, because
Okay.
this gnome was like, let me do magic, Dad. And it was like, you're doing magic wrong, goodbye.
Very much so. I mean, that actually does tie into, what Sarah was just saying, is they are very, say the word, please.
Aristocratic.
Thank you. Aristocratic family. I don't know why that word broke me. But yeah, that makes sense. I have no issues with that. This is kind of the point where I just back up anyway, and as long as it's not like throwing major red flags into the lore of my world or like some of the overarching plot things, have fun with it. So I'd say that works if the players agree to it and like it. So.
And I don't know if that ever has to come up, but I just feel like it might be funny.
Well, but see, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like the web is like one of the systems, like the knife system that we use. It's it's meant to generate the chords that will eventually be plucked if this is completed.
Now that I come to think of it, what I know of Halfpine's mother, I feel like it'd be so delightful to be like, oh yeah, I met a Blue Flame once. Like, his name was Sinric, and she's just like, no. Just, what?
Does not compute.
Excuse me? No, he's dead. I'm like,
He's dead.
no, definitely alive.
Okay. So does that mean that that's your connection then?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's reasonable.
But is that your characters knowing each other?
I don't think that
that's-
our characters
that's
necessarily
an
know each
NPC
other. I
link.
think
Yeah,
that's
I
our
think-
NPC link.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, keep tossing stuff in. I'm going through the doc and just editing it and like organizing it as my task kind of right now. So then we'll say that that's an NPC connection.
Yeah.
That
Listen, I'm tying NPCs together, which is not what this process is for.
that's part of it. But yes.
But we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But like, I think you were saying we were, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we were heading to break. I don't know. This feels.
In just a bit, we were going to head to
Okay.
break. But yeah,
Sorry.
specifically, we were talking about. No, you're fine.
Yep.
We were talking about the links between
Yeah, the characters.
players, the
specifically,
characters,
Yeah.
the characters. Yeah.
Great.
Were you going to
Yes,
say
that's
something,
right.
Vale? It looked
No,
like you.
I just had a thought and just wanted to voice it before it left my brain. With Sonny being like so new to the world, which of you two wants to be the person that just found her wandering around a dock somewhere?
Oh, so I have an idea for this. So, I think since like you are going to be the head of your village or whatever, I think my family would have tried to sell your island weapons at some point. And I think that's how we know each other.
Gotcha.
Like we just vibed because we're weird, and nobody else really understands what's going on.
So you've actually visited her village once.
Yes, I would say that I definitely visited with Chromebeard at some point.
Okay. That sounds good to me. We can go over some stuff later.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a great one. And then just for reference, for either of you on the map and Vale, you can feel free to change this. But Sonny's home is not really marked on the map because it's so small and unnamed.
Yeah, it's on that like super tiny island in like Tanglethorn, I think it was.
Yes, it's on a very tiny island at the very bottom of Tanglethorn, like the one that is the most south and is very small, for reference. But yeah, they would have totally found out, and that makes great sense. So I will put that, and as the dock is lighting up, we'll come up with different symbols and different stuff for things.
One thing I've talked to Kira about that kind of lines up here is that the idea is that Sonny's village is like wholly devoted to these gods, but they get like followers, like just career sailors and ship captains and stuff like that every now and then. Like not nearly as popular as like the more orthodox ones, but they exist. So it's entirely possible that like somebody at your company is the reason that you knew where to find the island.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. And I will say, okay, sorry, thinking of multiple things as I'm looking at this doc, and this wonderful web is coming together. Okay, let's try and ignore NPCs for just a few minutes and just focus on the character link. So we have our first character link, which is Half Pint and Sonny, and you guys can work out the connections later, but it's really just you bumped into each other. Kind of sounds like you bumped into each other and then ran into each other again later, kind of thing.
That would be reasonable.
Yeah.
But still, you can massage that, and we can work on that over the coming week. But there's a direct connection between the two. Cool. What other character connections do we have? Because we want everybody to have two of them, no matter how distant or close they are.
Well, we've already got a second one, which is that Cass and Rowan have met before, presumably. And I think probably relatively close to when the stream starts.
Okay.
And so I imagine it was, when Rowan was, heading out into the world and probably ran into, he was like, oh, a familiar face.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have one connection there, and then we have the connection between Half Pint and Sonny. Okay, what other connections? This is where you just get to workshop it.
Yeah, I feel like I could just stumble upon any of you for any reason, essentially.
I was gonna say it'd be very easy for you to have visited my hometown and worked for my parents at some point.
Depends what you mean by work.
Worked for my parents.
I think that's a possibility, yeah, because definitely not above. I mean, if there's no show, I need to eat. Doing bizarre types of tasks. I think also the status of your family would be good for, hey, do you know anything about this guy that I'm looking for? Would also definitely work.
Yeah, so I think in terms of crazy crap, I think Chromebeard would have been I need you to test this in front of the entire town. And it would just be some weird flying contraption that you've never seen before.
So I could see.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Gaspar's oh, you want me to pitch your thing to a crowd? Yeah, totally. And then finds out I'm the test subject.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Yes. Love it. Once again, details can be worked out, but that just seems so Gaspard. So Chromebeard hiring random people on the street to be stand here and put this apple on your head. It's gonna be fine.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
You'll be plenty safe.
Okay.
Oh, yes, to show off my dexterity. Yes, so people...
Yes.
I know that, so when we were kind of or when I was test playing Rowan at the last game, her and Gaspard had a very fun dynamic where he was like, or excuse me, they were, taking her under their wing. And I thought that was really fun, especially as a foil to the Gaspard the intern.
Right.
Like, she's the one who's like, no, Gaspard's great. Like, he's
Let
totally...
me show you how things work around here, kid. Like,
I thought that was very fun, and it would not...
yeah, if you were struggling in the city, I think as someone who's like struggled in the streets, like Gaspard would be like, "Oh no, hell no! Like, let's at least get you on your feet, and then I'll ditch you at some point."
Yeah, I think that it may have happened where you were like, "Yeah, let's get you on your feet," and then ran into Cass, and it's like, "Oh, hey, a friend," and then like, "Well, here we are.
Right.
Now you're stuck with us."
Okay. So then Rowan and Gaspard. And this is all, we'll color code this and figure it out just to make sure that it makes a little more sense to anybody viewing this, but us too when we're referencing it, because this is going to set up a fun week, hopefully, for everybody talking to each other in Discord and like working out the non-public version of the details and putting the fun flavor in there and like the exact order of events and stuff like that. Okay, so that means that Rowan has two connections now. So Rowan has a connection to Cass. Rowan has a connection to Gaspard.
I think Gaspard also has 2 at that point.
Yep.
And that would also link me to Cass as well.
Wait, what?
And technically, just
'cause-
because we're all getting interwoven now.
Well, but
the
it's
first degree is what we're looking at right now.
we're looking at
Gotcha.
first degree direct connections right now. So so Rowan, just to go around and make sure that we're getting the notes in there. Rowan is connected to Cass, and Cass has met Rowan before, so there's a back and forth relationship there. Rowan also is connected to Gaspard. Gaspard is connected to Half Pint and Rowan. Okay.
And I think that puts Half Pint with Gaspard and Sani, which means the remaining connection is probably Cass and Sani.
Yeah. I feel like in some point in our travels, probably a little bit before the stream, our paths just kind of crossed. Like, we were at the same inn. I was like, you seem very interesting. We had a lovely conversation about magic. And then we thought we would never see each other again, but it's like, oh hey, it's you.
Yeah, it could be that, or it could be we traveling together for a bit and then you were with me when we ran into Half Pint again.
Do that? Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I would say, I'd say you can do that, but I'd also try and shove more degrees of separation in there if you can. Like, it shouldn't just be, I know you and I also saw you when somebody else saw you kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
'cause we
I'm
wanna-
also thinking about how the party got pulled together, is that I might have already been traveling with Cass
Sorry,
when Half
yeah.
Pint saw me again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can do that, or it can be, it doesn't have to be that close to it. Feel free to put distance between things if it helps.
Yeah,
or,
I mean, it doesn't have to have been a long time. Like, it could have literally been like a week or 2 prior.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look. Glance at the doc for me, please, and let's get this. Let's at least get the draft really quick before we take a break here, and then we can work on the NPCs, because I'm just paying attention to the characters right now. Let me draw one more line here. This is the fun part of doing web method, is this crazy doc that you get to build, sometimes digitally or on a piece of paper. So Cass is first degree connected to Sani and Rowan. Half Pint is first degree connected to Sani and Gaspard. I need a better system for these colors. As long as I see 2 arrows coming from everybody, I know that I'm good. Sani is connected to Cass and Half Pint. Gaspard is connected to Rowan and Half Pint. Rowan is connected to Gaspard and Cass. So I think everybody has 2 first degree connections there, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then, yeah, I would just say that's great flavor to start, and then just work the hell out of it. And yes, it can be a week. It can be a week, and we'll probably even need some to be like that of it was like a week ago, and it goes into how the party's eating together and stuff. But feel free to make it, 5 years ago, or we've had because I don't think I heard an example of anybody having a longer term relationship, which is fine if we don't. But remember, that's an option if you want to be like, oh, I bumped into them like 7 times, or they're an acquaintance, or something like that. Because it sounds like a lot of ours are just, I bumped into them once, I remember their face, which is fine. But just ideas to chew on kind of thing.
I feel like maybe Rowan and Cass, like, we knew each other maybe like a while back. We spent a good amount of time. We've gone our separate ways, and now we're reconnecting. So maybe we were traveling together.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at, right? Is that you were going out to visit Cynric. I was there, and you're just hanging out with us for a couple of months, and then back on your way. And I think we just ran into each other again, and it's just like, and I'm just like, oh, I'm in a city. I'm so confused. Familiar face. Oh, thank God.
Yep. And have you met Sonny?
Actually, funny thought with Half Pint knowing her before. Half Pint might have met Sonny when she was still a ginger and not a shark.
Oh, okay.
great.
Okay.
I like that. I
think that's great.
The instant,
that's what we're
the
looking
instant
for.
you said, and have you met Sonny, I have this delightful headcanon that Rowan just absolutely has a crush on Sonny. And I love the thought that it be completely, and feel free to I'm just kind of throwing ideas, workshop this with me. I think it's just like she's absolutely, they're absolutely crushing on Sonny so hard. Sonny's mildly oblivious, and Rowan is like, I don't know how to communicate this, and what are these feelings?
Could be hilarious.
It feels like there's so much potential there for both good comedy and good drama.
I think there's a possibility I may have separated from you for a time. Like, oh, you are on your feet. Like, I'll go. Scared of your family. I feel like I'm probably scared of your family.
The finger snap.
Absolutely, yeah. That makes sense. Like, I think you would have gotten there and you would have been like, no big deal. It's like a job. And then he takes you up to the top of the tower and he's like, go. And you're like, absolutely never again am I working for the blue flames.
Like,
What
I
is these
I see a blue
people?
flame emblem or something, and I'm just like, crows.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that one time.
But at the same time, you're like, I can't piss them off, so I will be very nice to Half Pint.
I sometimes need the money. I keep going back.
Oh no. Okay. Oh, the pain. Poor Gaspard.
That is quite delightful, though.
It feels right for Gaspard.
It does.
I think partially, I think Half Pint is just like, yeah, we're really good friends, but she's only met you like 3 times. She has no idea how friendship works.
Vaguely know my name.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the beggar.
Yeah,
No, he's the intern.
Oh no, I'm literally an intern now.
You painted yourself into it.
I know where it started.
it's perfect. It's beautiful.
Oh, I love
This is good. This is right.
I love it. So I think that, who is Sonny's second connection? Now that I've color-coded it, it's helped way more to see the connection. So Sonny's connected to Half Pint and who?
Cass.
Cass. Okay, I just didn't draw an arrow. There wasn't a return arrow showing that relationship. Okay.
And we'll figure out the exact details of that one.
Totally. Yeah, but now this gives us and anybody looking at this right now at least. So I think what we're going to do is I picked you a color, and this way we'll be able to see who you're connected to, and everybody's NPCs will be your color as well, and then the arrows will just match. So it gives it a much easier visual cue here. So cool. Every character has at least 2 connections to another character that will be fleshed out. Doesn't mean you can't add more if you want, but I think that's a good point. We'll go ahead and take like a 10-minute break, get some water, etc., reset. We'll come back and we're going to have everybody get in 2 NPCs into the dock, and then we'll workshop how people are connected to them. And it's 2 NPCs to start. So just to touch on that really quickly, the idea with Half Pint's uncle is awesome, but I don't know how that really fits in the web formula that we're doing right now. But that can be an additional one. So keep it, put it in there, but on top of it, let's still put more NPCs in there kind of thing. Because I think that's a fun...
That feels almost like an Easter egg.
I think that's an Easter egg, and I want to. It's like going on my thumb marked list of all the things that I'm going to have show up at some point. So it's staying there, but think of 2 specific other NPCs from your past, Sarah has her parents in there, and you can throw another one in there because your parents are kind of like one entity.
Yeah, I
even though
have
they are
Zag
two
in there
separate.
too.
Do you? Oh, you do. Sorry, I didn't see it. But yeah, you can have Zag in there too. So we're going to go ahead and take that 10-minute, 15-minute break. We'll be back. If you stuck around for this, I hope it's entertaining. And I'm sorry, I don't typically watch Twitch chat while we're playing. I haven't gotten a good rhythm with that. But, please drop in feedback, questions. I'm sure everybody that is reading the chat here loves to have the questions, and we love to have you. So we'll see you back in about 10 minutes. Welcome back. They were being ridiculous while the cameras were off.
Oh, we were having very serious
I'm sure
conversations.
you were. The most
Extremely,
serious conversation.
exceedingly serious.
So
About
you can
anime.
see the doc that's up on the screen now. We've color coded it and added a little more detail during the break. So we have all of our main characters. All the characters have at least 2 connections to other characters, main characters, that have been introduced, no matter if it's, long-term relationship, casual relationship, etc. And now we have all of the NPCs on here as well. And now we need each person or each character needs to have a connection to 2 other NPCs. And let's try and mix it up a little bit and preferably not someone you're already connected to. You can. And for the Half Pint's uncle one and stuff, if Rowan was connected directly to Half Pint, that would still be a cool one to keep kind of thing. But it's about building the diversity of the web kind of. So, I think this is more of just a let you guys have fun with this instead of going around the table. So you guys can see the doc. You actually know a lot of these characters, and the ones that you don't know, ask somebody to tell you about them.
Anybody want to go first?
And
or
it
ask
looks
about
like
them?
Rowan is still
got one.
workshopping.
I've got one. Listen, I am garbage with names.
That's fine.
They're not, so I mostly go with vibes.
That's okay.
Open a baby name generator. Go to Nameberry, and it's I need a sound like this. It's 2 syllables. This is a 2-syllable kind of guy.
I mean, there's literally that fantasy name generator website that does nothing but I need a name for D&D right now.
Yes.
I like Oktuk, just because then you have to say it like that every time.
That sounds Klingon.
Yeah,
I mean, that's great.
it's great.
I actually would give a shout out during the stream to donjon.bin.sh. It's my favorite website as a DM, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Oh, I am deeply familiar.
Okay, well, because I love the name generators
It's
on there.
much better than the fantasynamegenerator.com.
Rip.
No offense, but yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh,
grab
I will
something.
intend
Dojin
offense.
actually pulls from fantasy name generator.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just all gathered in one spot.
Yeah.
You fake fan.
Well, using a different generator then.
I think it has others in there.
It does.
Basically consolidates multiple generators into one interface.
It does, but go ahead and workshop, Ryan. What are you workshopping?
So I had this concept because I was tying it. I was kind of working on this idea for Rowan of she's going out and learning magic and wizard duels sound fun. And then I remembered my cherished childhood memories of me, but a young lad, my Game Boy Color in hand, wearing my thumbs out, playing Pokemon. And what is critical to every Pokemon game? But a rival. A friendly individual who you keep fighting for some reason.
Okay.
And I like this concept of there is another student who was there, and it was just yeah, you two got to go out and figure out magic and occasionally run into each other and have a wizard duel.
This is your new rival. Shit, what was their name again?
Hence, question mark?
What I'm
Fuchsia.
wondering, because you have your fast and loose connection with magic. What if there is a it's not a student of Sinric, but it's a to the book wizard
Yes.
friend, you knew them. They went off to the official wizarding academy, and now you just get into the but no magic. How do you do with the magic? And so you could really play with that tension.
I love this. I love this concept. I think maybe perhaps there was a friend in this village who did go off to wizard school about the same time, and I think it was maybe the inspiration, right, of oh, they went off to wizard school. I'm gonna go out and learn magic, but instead learns it from crazy gnome in the woods.
And then you run into your friend again, and they're just like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
And you're like, what are you doing?
It's like,
But also, like, they did all the hard work of, like, okay, we're going to learn the magic. You found a beholder, your mind went crazy, and you're just like, I'm a sorcerer. I shortcutted a bunch of this.
Well, so she has multi-classed into wizard, right?
Yes.
So she does wizard business.
yeah.
yeah, so they're
like,
a
you
doctor
gotta
and you're
jump-
a nutritionist.
One thing that I would throw out too, because I love how this is going, and an idea popped in my head too, is the potential that would work for it is, you know, your whole thing of not being affected by Edwin. If you're going for a Pokemon-style rival, but that could have, you know, definitely some depth to it, like this one could too.
Yes.
What about a city guard or one of the people that ended up, you know, somebody from the Enchanted Empire army of Elion, the army that did find you and did see you casting magic without a license, and it just became this thing, and you developed a rivalship that way too. So there's a lot of different ways that you could do it.
Interesting.
Get a little Les Mis with it.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. No, I guess that is a little late. That's the second time Les Mis came up today.
Oh, that just, no. ADHD brain. Bring it
But
back
now I feel
together.
this person does need to be named Javert, and it's gonna like bounce off of Gaspard, and you're just like, which one is it?
Which one do I shoot?
So the one thing that I did like is that they would be roughly the same age, and I think that kind of plays into that like conflict of in parallel
Very much so.
learning. But let me bring this back to your guard business. Is that perhaps I was caught casting magic, like I was casting magic, a guard in the town from the military, like I imagine there's like one family that's just stationed there. Just like gotta collect taxes or whatever.
Well, they'd be the ones administering magical licenses and stuff. So yeah.
Been like they not only went to the academy, they became part of the system.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think rather than, like, I think Rowan was the one casting the magic, and then their friend ended up being the one that got grabbed.
Ooh.
Because I don't think they were looking that close.
Ooh.
And maybe it was like that moment where it was like oh, I've been seen, that causes her to flee. And then, this friend gets grabbed. They haven't seen each other since they were playing in the woods. And then, this kid's like, oh, well, you've been doing magic without a license, so, you are coming with us to magic school. We got to figure this out. And then just they learn magic the, new school, very rigid textbook way. And I'm like,
If I can pull at this one a little bit, and
Yes.
you have the final say, as does the group with this. The way, if you go that direction, which I think could be really cool,
yes.
that gives you motivation for Rowan to run out of the city, which fills in a nice piece with that character. But I'm going to say, all you know is they got snatched by the guards and taken away. Because it's not like they wouldn't have taken whoever this is to a magic school. They would have interrogated them, tried to figure out how they were bypassing it, and then I'm going to say the rest would be up to me. Because I have some fun ideas of what would happen to that one, because they're getting yanked out of the picture to be reintroduced. And you can workshop it at the table too, like if somebody here has an idea of well, they could have ended up here and that's my connection to them kind of thing. But I think that you got some good potential with that one. I really like it.
Yes. I would give them, I'm happy to give them to you, but keep in mind I will throw another twist in. Perhaps it is a twin sister.
A twin sister.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I think that's very fun.
That is very fun.
May I also give to you, they come across as incredibly refined and well put together.
The opposite of Rowan.
Basically, yeah, like her dark twin.
Okay.
Give me some dark twin
A
energy.
dark twin that works at the magical DMV.
Correct. As opposed to absolute feral wild child.
No, I love this. It's very Owl House.
Needs a license.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right, Dale? Very much so. So we'll just put Rowan's twin sister, question mark, because, definitely name your twin.
I have to come up with more names?
Or I'll do it. I love
last
generating
name's
names.
I can pull up a
Willow.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is good. Give me tree names are perfect. It's a
Okay.
weird nod to Pokemon.
Okay, so I mean, there's actually someone in Pokemon called Willow.
It's one of the professors because all the professors have tree names.
Oh, Oak Willow. Okay. So
Oak,
Rowan's
Willow,
twin
Rowan,
sister
Birch.
Willow then. Okay. So now the board or the web is completely populated with NPCs. So start figuring out who you're connected to and ask people if you have questions because we've got to get some lines going around.
Does anybody have anything they're particularly curious about, or like a story beat they want to share around their NPCs, perhaps?
I don't know, but I wanted one of my NPCs to be tied to Sonny or one of Sonny's NPCs.
Okay. I could run through her NPCs really quickly because they're actually connected.
Yes. 'Cause I know they're kind of distant, but I would like them to be connected to someone somehow.
Well, it actually, I will pitch that there could be a potential connection with Oni.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is before Sonny left, Oni was the last person to leave.
Mm.
And he was gone for about 5 years.
Oh, okay.
What happened there was there are these creatures that serve Sonny's gods called messengers.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very magically potent creatures.
Yes.
And about 10 years ago, some strangers came through the island chain, found one of them, and just maimed it for parts, essentially, to get, like, stuff to use do magic rituals with.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously made the gods very upset.
Mm-hmm.
So her uncle was tasked to go out and find these people and everything they took and bring it back, and it took him 5 years to do it.
Mm.
So he was basically just traveling around the globe as an adventurer for 5 years, came home as Sonny went from like tiny child to teenager in that time,
Mm-hmm.
and just filled her head with all kinds of stories about what he got up to out there and his grand adventures tracking down this cabal of sorcerers that had, besmirched the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years prior to the core of the game, he left, and he's still alive, but he's kind of hit that like final like step with the pact, so he's not even remotely human anymore.
Ah. He's more fish than man.
Yeah, he's like a direct servant of the gods.
Ah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
not quite part of the pantheon, but not immortal at all anymore.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So, but there's that long 5-year window where he was basically just running around with adventurers trying to find the missing pieces of this magical creature, and the dude is basically King Shark.
Interesting.
I like that. That last detail is like
it feels right. Like, how have I met this mysterious shark man?
And then my second NPC listed there is Athala, which is a name that Oni has told her, but she doesn't know many details about that beyond that she was involved in helping him find some of the people that were had stolen all of this stuff, but they didn't get along terribly well, and she may have done some stuff that he's not very thrilled with.
Gotcha. Interesting. I think, so this kind of gives me some thoughts on Cynric, which I'm thinking maybe he was also an adventurer at some point in his storied past.
Makes sense.
And I think he's one of those people that, like, how do I put it, like, he's kind of a myth like Bigfoot. In that, like, there's just this creature that lives in the woods, except that, like, he's got cryptid energy, is what I'm trying to say.
They were on the cryptid squad together.
Correct. I think at some point these two cryptids met and were like, yes, I understand. And, I think Rowan just kind of following Cynric around in the woods.
Also met Oni at some point when she was apprenticing.
Yeah, I think he just kind of, like, wandered by as, like, I guess the other way to put it is, like, I think Cynric has this, like, local legend, like, there's a wise old crazy gnome that lives in the woods, but if you go ask questions, he will give you answers. And so, like, most people don't go seeking, but like adventurers do. And I imagine it'd be very easy for Oni to have been guided by his gods to just like come and like seek wisdom from the insane gnome. Because what it truly could be a better font of wisdom. And I think that may also be the start of Rowan's crush on shark people.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
What do you want from me?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, so I'm gonna need to know more about Zag and then your people.
So Zag is Half Pine's best friend from childhood. It's really the only person her parents allowed her to interact with outside of like the immediate family and like at formal functions, because Zag is the daughter of the family's business partner, basically. So she was just around all the time. Zag is pretty much the only reason that Half Pint has any experience outside of her house and the grounds. And generally speaking, yeah, I feel like that's good, right? Yeah,
Yes.
that's probably good.
Very much so.
Zag is gnome?
Zag is gnome. Yeah.
Okay.
Hence, one of the reasons Half Pint is obsessed with gnomes.
Makes sense. What is Zag's family business?
They're also in the arms business. I believe I said that they were in charge of something.
I haven't looked Zag up for a bit because they haven't been relevant yet, so
I will look it up.
check.
I don't know why I just keep wanting to connect these NPCs together.
Instead of yourself to the NPC.
Ah, okay.
I should probably
Yeah,
move
so
that
I
to a
have this
better
in here,
angle
but
for you,
basically,
too.
kind of the relationship
it's
between Zag and Half Pint can be tenuous a lot of times because, like, Half Pint doesn't quite know how to reciprocate in a lot of cases, and so Half Pint would not say Zag is her best friend; she'd say her mother is her best friend, but Zag would say that Half Pint is her best friend. And then I just have business partner.
Yeah, Zag Stonemason, the daughter of her mother's business partner. I believe the way that I had written it in my quick notes doc is that the Stonemasons were business partners as they supply the raw materials to the Blue Flame family and some of the other families out there for all their crazy, everything from like basic stone to literally the bits of lead to make the bullets out of and everything.
So maybe like Zag on behalf of her family has had to go to Treetop to get raw materials to bring back, and that's how I met Zag.
Yep. Except Treetop would never give them, and they're having to get them like illegally, and or from their own mining operations once Edwin froze stuff, which allowed the Blue Flames to really get what they needed. But you would know the Stonemasons and Zag from showing up at Treetop like all the time, and it's this thing of like, hey, what about now? Like we've sweetened the deal, and Treetop's like, no. And they're just like, but maybe this time? No. And so, they'll plenty of chance to know the Zag from that, so.
I feel like maybe Aunt Lena and, I feel like Aunt Lena runs kind of like a nice B&B.
Okay.
I get B&B energy from her.
Oh, for sure. She's like a weird, like, college professor auntie. She absolutely runs a B&B.
And so I feel like she probably hosts Zag's family and is like totally 100% encouraging them to just keep asking to spite her brother, my father.
Okay.
And so like I've run into Zag a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah, I like it because there would be some very basic support structures around where the Thunderpad is and stuff like that. So you could say there's an Airbnb, pretty much. So,
yeah,
fantasy Airbnb.
I mean, there's also just like people passing through to enjoy the countryside.
Yep,
it's very nice. It's very scenic.
it is. So then we're going to draw a line from Cass to Zag.
It may be simpler to change the color of the arrow that points to that NPC to the color of the PC that it corresponds to. Right, so if you look at the arrow between Sani and Oni, I'd change it to match Rowan's green.
Well,
That way confuses me, to be blunt.
Okay.
that way
That's
just
fine.
that way just doesn't work with my brain right now.
Nope,
We can
that's
make
fine.
multiple versions of it and stuff, and I see what you're going for. That way just breaks my brain because I'm trying to keep everything color coded. So we can make it look much less like red string around a thing later, for sure, though.
Dang, I wish I
No,
would have known.
if we want to play with the red string pin board games out, we need to play Unknown Armies or something.
Yes, very much so. So we have Rowan has the connection to Oni.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss one with Rowan? Does Rowan have another one?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, through uncle, yeah. No,
The uncle's a
maybe.
bonus one we're
Just a
tossing
bonus
in
boy.
there. Yeah.
Listen, that's just delightful.
So Rowan has one to Oni. Cass has one to Zeg. What else we got?
I think Ithala intrigues me. I think Gaspard would have at some point like heard of this person in a town that they were in, and would have just been like, I need to know your whole deal. Like whatever you'll share, I just need to know what your journey was. Probably just like in awe more than like a specific project in mind or anything like that. How they react, I don't know.
Let me pitch unto you
Okay.
the idea of you two met drunk in a tavern,
Okay.
and you're like, I have to know your life story.
You are so majestic.
Like it's like, and may I also propose, and again, this is all, feel free to throw it out. I think perhaps there was like it could have been a thing and it wasn't. And so Athala is your like, what if?
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm so 50-50 on that's the best idea ever, and I don't know if Gaspard would do it.
And you can just leave that up in the air.
Yeah.
If you want to have the connection, we can talk about it this week and figure out a bit more, because she's a character I'm less interested in getting into full details on than Oni, because Sani doesn't know the details about her.
Right.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of this is going to be done off camera over the next week, fleshing this stuff out. What were we?
Your twin sister.
Yes, tell me more.
I think she would fit very well. Like, I think she may not necessarily have been adopted by my family, but I feel like she would definitely in some way be somewhat related.
I like the thought that perhaps the Blue Flames granted her a very, very potent scholarship.
I do like that idea. Yeah.
Like, and it's like, so they are, her benefactors. Of course, like there is the like annual, like, oh, gotta go visit and like say thank you and like.
Yep. I like that. I think that works. That feels good. They're definitely philanthropic.
Yes.
My parents, yeah.
Yes. If you're comfortable with it and you want to let Willow's fate be a little bit decided by me, I think what would work best for that is I'll workshop that with Sarah, if you like the sound of that, because you can then play, especially have a lot of blinders on as a character and a player, is Willow got snagged.
Yep.
Haven't heard of her since. So then I can workshop with Sarah like a way that she's connected to the Blue Flames, because I have 3 off the top of my head kind of thing. So.
Yes, this is wonderful.
Okay, more lines popping on the map.
I guess who my characters are. Giovanni de Castel is of an older age, a renowned actor, performed in royal ceremonies and things like that on bigger stages. Kind of disappeared to obscurity and later ended up joining Iradrama and really becoming kind of a pivotal point in promising a lot of different like opportunities and things. My name is going to get you far and stuff, but eventually was just gone. No one's sure entirely why. Had a lot of deals pending for Giovanni and such, which is why Gaspard is supposed to track them down. Francis Frankie Pacino is a young prodigy actor in Eurodrama. Basically a fixer, somebody who behaves way more maturely than they should. Like, they look like a young boy, but like they act like a 45-year-old man, and takes themselves very, very seriously, forming connections and things like that, trying to make up for Giovanni's absence.
I feel like I met this person in a bar. I was considering, I just need a random job. Was introduced to Frankie.
Frankie's drinking milk at the table, like.
Yep. I did not like this person. I did not take their job, but I know of them. It was such a weird experience. I'm just like, oh.
I'm deeply in love with this gangster baby.
Why is there a child in the bar?
Yes.
I feel like Sonny needs to be connected to one of them, but I don't know which. Or like how it works. I love the idea that Sonny has run into one of them somewhere.
Giovanni, kind of in the same way as Ithala, might have been intrigued if this was like post-pact, that this is something super unconventional, and like probably would have wanted to know your story. Francis Frankie Pacino might have been like, "Oh, you got magic? I know. We can do things with your magic. You know, like."
Like I know a guy. I know a guy who needs some shock lady.
Anyone he meets, it's like, we're gonna make you big. Your name is gonna be everywhere.
I think I'll go with a link to Giovanni. We can work out the exact details of, just because I think Cass was already interested in, like, Frankie, why are you talking to me?
Yeah, and that would also make Gaspard pretty interested in you.
Cool. So that has Cass is connected to Zeg, and Cass is connected to Frankie. So we got 2 there, and then I think that's the only one that we have 2 for right now. Okay.
So obviously we know Kaylin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we've kind of pieced together Aunt Lena runs a lovely B&B. But Eltia Silverleaf, it was Cass's neighbor and like kind of a friend growing up. He's a half-elf and operates a thunderpad, so doing a lot of the traveling in and out of Treetop. So if anyone's ever been to Treetop, maybe you met Eltia.
And this will be mentioned like probably the beginning of everything, or maybe in my recap of the world, or it'll just come up naturally. Probably more come up naturally, but throughout the world there are things called thunderpads, which were developed a long time ago and are just kind of fallen to the wayside now. Is like, you can use them, they tend to cost a decent amount of money. They're just a permanent, usually made of stone or marble fixture that has a teleportation circle on them, and they're staffed by like whatever town, army, or whatever controls the territory, and for an exorbitant fee, a lot of the time, you can use it to jump to another one somewhere else in the world, but it requires a lot of reagents. And a lot of people don't like them because they're weird, and it's still teleportation even in a highly magical world and stuff like that. So Treetop, being an isolationist, does have one outside that's staffed by members of the guard and stuff like that. And then, you know, Aunt Lena has the Airbnb nearby, the bed and breakfast, not the Airbnb. And yeah, so just for the FYI, your characters will most likely know of thunderpads. You know, Sonny wouldn't till she left. Rowan wouldn't till, well, I mean, Rowan might have just from living in town for a little while, but general knowledge.
Eltia's your father?
No, childhood friend.
Come, gaze
And if
upon the
anyone needs a
madness.
random druid, he's your man.
Aside from Caitlin, would any of these people find themselves in like a city or metropolis type scene?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have met any of them.
No.
I mean, like,
What's up?
I'm hesitant to say. I mean, like, I feel like Cardia and Chromebeard at some point would have taken Half Pint out to Treetop.
Oh yeah, they would have taken you. That would have been like like 20th birthday or you know
Right.
something, some kind of a life event, they would have taken you on like a world tour almost kind of thing. So, because I mean, with enough money which they possess or the raw materials, if they wanted to do it that way, they could do a like around the world. What's the famous book?
Around
In
the world
80
in 80
days.
days.
They could do something similar and like take a week and just go bam, 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 and hit all the major thunder pads and like do brief tours and then be like, cool, shoo, and it could have been like this is what you're gonna get to in 20 years kind of
So you got
thing.
the business class around Europe for spring break.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Exactly.
much. Yeah,
You
Just
got
like
the
waved at
grand
treetop.
tour.
yeah.
I may have proposed that, you know, Iltia was your tour guide.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Mhm.
I was thinking that we ended up staying at the bed and breakfast, but Altea makes sense too.
Yeah, it would be a limited tour. You really wouldn't go too deep into treetop, etc. But Eldia could be somebody that would have done something like that. So
Well, I mean, it's the way that I've understood Treetop right is that, it's very, very guarded. So, like, yeah, they're going to let them in, but they're not just going to let them wander. And so it's, I guess, suppose
Yes.
perhaps less of a tour guide and more of a minder.
more of a minder, and they don't really let people go that far. So they'll let them
Yeah.
walk like 500 feet into the tree line and show them around, but they're not going to see the cities. They're not going to go to the Zyphoid, stuff like that.
Is Treetop now North Korea?
No, they've
Sure
just
sounds
always
like North
they
Korea.
have always Treetop has always been isolationist because everybody in the world wants their hands on the Zyphoid and thinks if they can get closer to it, they'll get more power or something like
It's
that.
not North
Very-
Korea, it's Wakanda.
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, if you had to draw a comparison to existing media, it would be very much Wakanda in a way something like that.
I just had a thought before it escaped me is that
Yeah.
I feel like Sani's other connection needs to be with Sinric. And it's not that they've directly met. It's that she knows all the stories from her uncle traveling,
Yes.
and Sinric owed her uncle a favor, and given circumstances that as far as her culture is concerned, that favor has passed to her.
Yes, I love this.
Okay.
It's like there's just a debt to her family, and Ani cannot collect it anymore, so now it is her debt to call in.
So that would be Sani's
With-
connection to
to
Sinric.
Sinric,
Then.
yes.
Okay.
And because Sinric's gone, that means now that Rowan owes.
Correct. that logic does make sense.
Life debt.
You are my gnome now. Let's go.
I'm collecting on this.
Oh no, Rowan is not a gnome. She's a half elf.
Half elf. Sorry,
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Her instructors are known.
he was
Yes,
the gnome. Gotcha.
he's a gnome.
Yes. Okay, well then that's Sani's and Cass's connections, and I believe that's also Blue Flame. It's Half Pines, so those three are all locked down, and then Rowan is locked down. Rowan is Rowan only has.
I'm missing a connection.
You are missing a connection to an NPC. Okay, so Rowan needs a connection to an NPC. Gaspard needs two.
Yeah,
connections
Cardia
to-
and
Well, I have
Chromebeard and Lena and Kaylin are available still.
Yes.
I feel like what a delightful nod if Rowan is connected to Lena and Kaylin. And now, Lena, in her original backstory, was for a time, was a professor at an academy. I forget the precise name of it. She didn't have an Airbnb, and like she was living on a different continent from Treetop. And so I think perhaps at some point she moved back and started her Airbnb, but is still a really well-known scholar, in particular of, like herbology and these sort of things. But like also she's a druid. Like she knows magic. And so I think maybe Rowan was pointed in her direction. Just like, I don't know, go talk to this lady.
I mean, you could. That's not really a connection. It's more of like.
Well, no, I mean, like, I think she, like, went and talked to them.
Oh,
and, like,
okay.
stayed at the Airbnb for, like, a week or so and just, like, helped around the house. Like,
That could have been how we parted ways, where I was like, oh, you should go talk to my aunt.
yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I hope people are keeping. You guys are keeping notes on a lot of this because I'm going to need all this typed up as the DM. And, like, Jillian, you're going to have to name that bed and breakfast because apparently it's going to be a point that's going to show up a lot,
We'll come
Yeah.
up with a name for the bed and breakfast.
which is great.
Now I'm concerned.
So, Cass has double connections. Rowan has double connections. Half Pint has double connections. Sonny needs.
No,
Nope.
Sonny's good.
Sonny's good.
Yep.
So it's Gaspard needs one more.
I feel like it's kind of a throwaway one, but Cardi and Chromebeard, obviously, I would have
Worked for them.
Yeah, so if they are my connection, I think it would make more sense that I'm not quite as scared of Half Pint as I am of Chromebeard.
Okay.
Like Chromebeard is an endearing, wonderful man, but I just can't see past our experiences. But I think Cardia, ironically from how we experienced her in the game, I think she's just so eloquent that, like, anytime Gaspard has dealing with this family, Cardia just, like, sets up the arrangement, sets up the payment, makes sure that Gaspard's taken care of. Not in, like, a motherly kind of way. Like, this is a business transaction. I don't really know your name. But, like, just everything just feels so professional. Like, Gaspard feels kind of important. Like, I'm contributing to society.
And then you end up launched off the top of
And
it.
then yeah, exactly. Like, just something horrible happens every time that he's gone back.
Okay.
Oh, this is so good as a reversal. Oh, it's beautiful.
So
What's
your
wrong with
connect.
Cardia?
So, but what is your connection to Cardia?
Connection would be mostly that she is my she's the representative I really associate fondly with them. Not that I necessarily am like a business associate. I'm more of an employee, but like
An
You're the
intern.
yeah, I'm the intern. And she
signs
just
your paychecks.
Yeah.
exactly, and that's how she charms me. Really, let's be honest.
I also like this thought that she at some point has written like a book, like, you know, how to make friends and influence people kind of vibe. That feels like something Cardia would write.
It does, yeah.
And
absolutely.
like Gaspard has this book.
And he's been trying to get it signed for like months, and he just can't get it. He just can't bring himself to ask.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you as players want to do, go for it and put it in the dock. Yeah. So then that means that Gaspard will have a connection to not only Half Pint as a player character, but also Cardia specifically.
Oh, I mean, I think there was also Blue Flame, right? Where it was just like you're
Chromebeard.
Yeah, Chromebeard, excuse me. Where you're truly
Well,
just terrified of this sweet old
yeah,
man.
the arrow can go to both of them, and you have different relationships with the two of them. So, so I think that there will be an opportunity for us to do some editing in the slides and make this a much more readable format for us and all
Why?
the
You
viewers
don't
in
like
the future.
that?
I do not like that. It hurts me. But we have the building blocks down now. So everybody has, all the characters have been outlined. Every character has 2 unique connections to other characters. And then every character is connected to NPCs in different backstories. So it feels good. Feels cohesive to me. How's everybody else feel about it?
Yeah.
Good?
I think also Half Pint is like, she knows that you have the book, and she's like, you should just ask Mummy. She really wouldn't mind. She loves her fans.
No, she's just so busy.
I feel, and see, this is what I feel like you're all going to just be lighting each other up in Discord over the next week, which hopefully you will be. And then eventually I'll get a dump of the relevant details because it sounds really fun. Like there's a lot of things to play with. So everybody sounds really locked in on characters, at least, you know, concept, class, kind of the role they're probably going to play in the party. Everybody has these links now, lots of reasons to be out adventuring / with each other and stuff like that. I'll say the challenge will be over the next week, working out all the details with each other, getting it into a readable form in your backstory for me before the next session. And then we'll go ahead and start next week and start playing with it. And, you know, a lot of this stuff that we've talked about tonight, that's the one downside. I feel, to the web method is you put so much on the table, there's a lot of reliance on everyone to pull back and remember that the characters don't know all this kind of thing. And that's because it's a legitimate challenge, because it's not like anybody's willingly wanting to do it, but it's just you spend so much time crafting all these webs and stuff like that, you then have to revert to a position of where like, I only really know my webs and the rest is going to be naturally revealed as we play. So it is like the complete opposite of making your characters in secrecy, so everything is a legitimate surprise every time. We're still going to have legitimate surprises, but there is going to be a lot of like, I can't talk about that yet.
That's what goldfish memory is for, and then you only write down the things that are relevant to your character.
I mean, I get that. When it comes to D&D, my ADHD brain is a bit better. For some reason, I don't have as much goldfish memory. Or I try not to because of DMing. So
Perhaps it's the dopamine.
it could be the dopamine. Thank you, Adderall. Enabling D&D players to play D&D for many years.
Oh no, I was just saying the D&D
Yeah, the D&D
gives
dopamine.
you dopamine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The D stands for dopamine.
The
Yeah,
D
it's
does
the
stand-
dopamine and dopamine.
does stand for dopamine. Okay.
Dice and dopamine.
Dice and dopamine. I like it. New t-shirt. So, any other things that we want to talk about with the doc? Anything else?
There was one additional aspect that I wanted to put into Rowan, but I also kind of want to run it by everyone. So she very clearly has had they've had a rough time growing up. You don't just live in the woods with a feral gnome and come out well adjusted. And so the way I kind of wanted to interpret that is that she has some very toxic positivity where she's like, no, everything is always fine. Like, I'm going to be great. Because, like, that's how she made it through, like, almost a decade of...
Feral gnome.
Yeah, of living off of grubs and, like, trying to do magic.
I think that would be an excellent both compliment and then foil to Cass, where she is very like, everything's fine, but at some point she'll be like, everything is not fine. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Everything's fine and nobody dies.
Yes, as long as nobody dies.
I'm like, no, but it's fine. It's fine if they die. You just got to put a smile back on.
No.
And you just turn that frown upside down. Come on, girlie. Come on. You can do it. You can do it.
I hate it.
I need all of your necromancer spells now.
Oh, so you can summon a friend. I know that the bones don't talk, but sometimes they chatter. And honestly, it's great to have company.
To be honest, that type of mentality is how you get necromancers. Nobody dies. Oh my god, somebody died.
Oh, I have Cass's villain arc in my mind.
Nice.
But if she wants to be,
Boy.
if she wants to
It
do
is a
necromancy,
possibility.
that's fine. Like, it's a lot harder to get the bones to talk though. I'm not quite. I'm still looking for that spell.
We'll learn sculpt flesh eventually.
I don't like that.
We'll just have to see how it plays out then.
I mean, like, why would you not wish to sculpt flesh?
Exactly.
I don't like that. Don't use that phrasing.
She's a plastic
God.
surgeon.
Here is my chisel and hammer. Let me sculpt this flesh. Let me release from this
In your
marble.
moist bodega.
Yes.
And now we've gone off the rails.
I mean, most bodegas are at least a little bit moist, if not even damp.
But they are not.
Hope
They are
this
not
is off the rails.
relevant to the building character conversation right now.
That's deeply relevant.
It is not.
Poor Vale.
It is not.
We'll find a way.
Anything else that we wanted to go over with the characters, though? Or any questions that we have? I obviously need to give you guys, like, kind of the stinger of where we're going to start and stuff like that. I think because of the nature of us being streamed right now, like, that'll be off camera in Discord kind of thing, and I'll give you the brief, information that you need to know for it. And then we'll just see how it plays on camera. But any other questions that we might have?
Potentially relevant to that, is Kaylin traveling around with me? Do I have my best buddy cousin with me?
A retainer?
Or has he been stabbed in an alley?
I do love the opening of Kaylin stabbed in an alley.
We'll workshop it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that very well could be a good way for things to get kicked off, or driving character motivation and a lot of stuff. So we can definitely workshop that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything else that we're thinking of? Nope.
Bag.
Okay.
Not anything that anybody else needs to know.
All right.
Nobody needs to know.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, or if you're watching this in the future, and you got to see a bit of the web method of character creation / campaign creation for Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you again to my friend Brandon for sending me down this path, sending me this TikTok, and this TikTok was just sent to Ryan apparently by a friend as well as we were doing this. So it's the, whatever that effect's called, where you hear about something and start seeing it everywhere. Whatever it's
I
called.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Subliminal advertising.
Yes. And again, a shout out to @Scene4 on TikTok for being the one that made this video on TikTok that's getting bounced around and stuff like that. But if you join us again next week, we should be diving into this story. I'm going to try and have a nice, succinct little intro set up for my world, Akora, and we'll have a nice kind of kickoff for everything with this new web that we've built. So hope you guys are excited. I'm really excited. And I'm dying to see how this doc comes together. Because I love it. I love it. There's just so much detail in here. But cool.
Delightful.
Okay. Well, we will see you next week. And thanks for watching. And please join us in the future. But until next time, bye.
Bye. Where are we starting? Where?